Welcome to the Intuitive Eating Mama podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer D'Amato. I am an intuitive eating counselor and I'm also a mom to 4. This podcast is not just for mamas, it's for all women who are ready to ditch diets, ditch the scale and food guilt forever, and instead invite peace with food, increase their body trust, and confidence in all of her choices. I believe this show is going to shed some light on sneaky ways diet culture has infiltrated your thoughts, your family, and your well-being. No matter the episode, I want you to walk away feeling informed, inspired, and encouraged. So whether you're taking a walk, washing the dishes, or carting kids around, let's dive into the latest episode on the Intuitive Eating Mama podcast. I can't believe today is here. I'm having a lot of emotions and thoughts all just overflowing in me because today, this episode is episode 200 and the beginning of season 5 of my podcast. This is wild. This is so wild. I can still remember when the first episodes were released. We were on a family vacation and I was so emotional then. It was such a big undertaking. It was so huge for me to add one more thing on my plate and also to put myself really out there. I don't regret any of it. It's a lot of work. It hasn't gotten less work. However, I need to give the biggest shout out to something that happened in season 4, towards the middle to end of, recording season 4 episodes. I hired a podcast assistant. I know she's going to be listening to this. Kate, you are everything. It answered a prayer, just a blessing for me. She does all of my transcriptions. I like to have those on my website. If somebody, would rather read blog form or, is hearing impaired, I want them to still be able to benefit from the podcast. She does all of that, all of my show notes, gets everything posted. So wherever you're listening, you can see it. So all that stuff that was taking up so many hours of my day, my weeks with every episode, she does that. Best thing that's happened to the podcast is Kate, and I thank you so much. I know she's going to be hearing this when she's doing the transcription, and I'm honestly so grateful because she's, balancing a lot too. She's a mom with a little one. She has another job, and she does this because she is very passionate about the work that I do. And that was something really important to me. I had a lot of people in my ear, over the years of doing this podcast, you need to hire someone, you need to hire someone. And nothing felt in alignment. Nothing felt right. I didn't want to hire somebody that I didn't feel really understood or supported the work that I do. There's some amazing podcast assistants, podcast producers out there, but it was something I held very, very close to my heart. I always said when this podcast started, it was like my 5th child. I would have had 5 kids if that 4th one had not been she's wonderful. The experience of the pregnancy and her first 6 months of life is what was awful. She is not awful. She never was. It was just a really rough go. And my oldest was like, Mom, we're done, right? No more kids. It was 4 girls. Nobody slept, I'm pretty sure, the first 6 months of our youngest life. Now, she's over 12 years old now. This feels like a lifetime ago. But anyway, I've always said the podcast feels like my 5th baby. And so when you're thinking about someone taking care of your baby, you want it to be someone who gets you, who does things like you would do them. And I did find that in Kate. Well, here we are. Episode number 200. That's a lot of talking. And I say episode 200 knowing there's been some bonuses in there. There's been some extras I've kind of put together, but we're just officially saying 200. I know it's been more than that, but 200 is still just such a huge accomplishment. Oh boy. I'm recording this in the morning and I'm still drinking my coffee, so we'll see what comes out. I've heard a lot of feedback from listeners that they laugh along with me, that that's something that, means a lot to them. And I know it's not something I was doing when I first started recording this podcast. It was under a different name. It's actually been under a couple of different names. And that's a longer story that I'm going to get into right now about the first one, but also when it changed over in season 4 to the Intuitive Eating Mama, everything changed for me. I really felt like I embodied the intuitive eating mama. And part of just who I am is laughing at myself for the most part. Like legit, if you've, I know you haven't known me personally, but I didn't laugh a lot for a long time, a really long time. I was miserable. I was miserable in my own skin. I was miserable with everything. And I was freaking hungry. I know that was part of it. And we eat now. So laughing didn't come as easily. So when I hear that as an observation, as something women appreciate and enjoy, I don't even know if you know how much that speaks to me, how much that is like a compliment to me. And I tell my husband, because he was always the funny one. He was the one really jovial. And, we always said we tried to balance each other out, especially early on in marriage. And I do feel like he's rubbed off on me. He's still really witty. I'm not witty, but I can laugh a whole lot. And I love laughing, even if I'm laughing at myself right here on the podcast with you. A lot has changed. A lot has changed since I started the podcast, since those first episodes. And I'm so grateful for those who just found me. Like, this might be your first ever episode. Now you're like, this lady can't even get words out of her mouth. But if you've been around for a while, if you've been here, if you've listened to multiple episodes, I don't know how to express the gratitude in an audio form because I'm a hugger. Like, I want to hug you. I want to give you a big old squeeze and say, I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful. Those of you who have just taken the time to reach out to me personally, who've, messaged me, who've become clients that I've gotten to work with in the Intuitive Health Reboot or one-on-one because you listen to the podcast. I don't know how to properly say thank you because thank you seems like small to me right now. I'm honestly overwhelmed because you take this, time out of your life to listen. Whether it's a 10-minute, 12-minute episode or you've listened to one of my interviews, which is, 35, 40 minutes, and you come back and you listen again, you share it with your girlfriends, you talk about it. You've told people like, I'm so overwhelmed with gratitude. And I was thinking about this, I was kind of brainstorming and thinking like, what do I want to do? Because I feel like 200 episodes hitting another season, season 5, episode 200 was so monumental for me. And gratitude kept overflowing. I'm like, I want to do something. I want to do something. And I was talking with my assistant about it. I was talking with my business coach about it. And I'm like, I want to do something. How do I show I'm so grateful for you? And I think I've come up with something pretty epic that I'm super excited to tell you about. Now, I realize not everyone listens on Apple Podcasts, so I made sure, it was very important to me, that anyone and everyone could enter this giveaway. Now, if you're on Apple Podcasts, you're going to be like, oh, this is simple. I got this. I can do this real easy when it comes to leaving a review and screenshotting, all of this. Now, if you're not listening and you can't leave a review, because I still don't understand in 2023 how other platforms don't have that ability, but don't worry. I have some very clear ways that you can still enter this giveaway. And you're like, great, enter a giveaway. What are you giving away? You might want to know that. And then I'm going to tell you exactly how you can enter. So a lot of the feedback I get from women is how much they're struggling with emotional eating. So I decided to do a very unique opportunity to be able to work with me on emotional eating. So the winner of the giveaway is going to actually have an intensive with me. This is going to be absolutely free. This is a 45-minute call with me, and we're going to create a custom plan for you to eliminate emotional eating. Now, that emotional eating could be boredom eating, stress eating, anything that causes you to feel out of control when it comes to food and coping with your emotions. Maybe when the seasons change and you go from summer to fall into winter, you experience, a heightened emotions and you have a hard time when there's less sunlight out. Maybe you even notice seasonal affective disorder. Nothing wrong with that. We acknowledge it. But what if instead of using food to cope, you had a very clear plan on how to address emotional eating? So I thought all this and I was like, this is what I want to give away. Absolutely free, but you have to enter. So let's talk about what that looks like because the timeline is tight. Okay. You have to enter before September 18th because the winner will be announced on September 19th, 2023. That's 1 week. You have 1 week to enter. And how do you do that? Okay. First and foremost, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, leave a review. Now, before you hit the share or send option on there for the review, take a screenshot and send it to me in a DM. Jennifer_intuitive eating life. If we're not already hanging out on Instagram together, send me that DM. You are entered if you do that. Now, you might be like, Jen, that's really great. I'm not listening on Apple. How do I enter? All you need to do is take a screenshot of the episode you're listening to, tag me, Jennifer_intuitive eating life on Instagram. That's it. Those two ways are going to get you entered. Now, if you listen on Apple and you also send that screenshot of the episode you're listening to, tag me in that. Thank you. I am so appreciative of that. Remember, you are entering to win this emotional eating giveaway. And I know that there's probably someone in your circle who maybe you're like, I don't want to talk about intuitive eating with them. They're so immersed in diet culture. But if I post this, maybe they'll go find the podcast and go listen. So the last day to enter is September 18th because I'm going to announce the winner on the 19th on Instagram. Yep, I'm going to put it up there. I'm going to put everyone's name who's entered in like a spinny wheel. We're going to click that, announce the winner, and then I'll be able to get in touch with you on Instagram. So be sure to leave a review, take a screenshot of the review. Don't submit it until you've taken the screenshot because then it like disappears into the abyss, and then send me that in a DM. And then if you're listening to the episode wherever you are, maybe you are out taking a walk, you're doing dishes, or you're sitting at your desk, wherever that is, take a screenshot, put yourself in it if you want to, or just of the podcast episode, and go ahead and tag me when you post that, Jennifer_intuitive eating life. I'm just so honored, so thankful, so grateful that I wanted to do something to express my gratitude for you listening. And no matter where you're listening, I know I've heard from women in Australia, in the UK. I see you. I love you guys for listening too. You get to enter this as well. You are not left out. I was like, how do I include everyone no matter where you're listening? This is it right here. All right. Thanks for going down a little bit of memory lane with me, and thank you for being here. I'm excited for this next season. I believe season 5 is going to just take things to the next level and share even more about intuitive eating, about food freedom, body image, and really press into this and let this be a resource that you can share, a resource that, helps guide you. I am so honored you choose to be here each and every week with me. Can't wait for everything that's ahead and can't wait to see you in my DMs. Thanks for listening. See you right back here next week.